Welcome to our Leaders in Lockdown debate for Devon. It's a chance for our listeners to ask those potentially making some decisions in the coming year about what have we learned during the lockdown, but also what things have changed and what can we expect to see over the coming year. Now, I'm joined by Councillor John Hart, the leader of Devon County Council, also our Public Health Director, Steve Brown. Now, as I mentioned, these questions have been submitted by listeners. Let's go to our first question. Will the likely rise in staycations that we're expecting to see in Devon this summer affect local COVID levels?
Okay, so in terms of the releasing of lockdown and staycation, what we do know is whenever restrictions are released, we do often see a rise in cases because more people are mixing and they're mixing indoors, so you do see cases go up. What we didn't see last year, which I think many people expected, was with lots of people travelling down to the southwest, we were going to see lots of people bringing the virus with them, and we're going to see a surge in number of positive cases because of the holidaymakers. And we just didn't see that. We saw some increase in cases slightly, and we saw some outbreaks, but the vast majority of those weren't brought in from outside. So I suspect we are likely to see a rise in cases, partly because of people staying in this country, increased numbers, but also because of the increase in number of testing we're doing. So we will see an increase in cases, I suspect. Hopefully there won't be a correlation of people becoming seriously ill and ending in hospital. But I'm not necessarily convinced that it's going to be lots of those people outside of Devon bringing it into Devon.
What I was going to add to what's just been said is, no, we didn't see a big upsurge. But what we do want, we want the people to come. We want the people to come and the people to kind of work with us. And if it says car park full, it means car park full. We do want the people to come down to the southwest. The southwest tourism is the bread and butter of our economy to a certain extent. But what I do need is the people generally that come down as day trippers or holidaymakers to respect the local people. And that's something I would ask seriously for. But as far as it went, the day trippers, when we had the first freedom to move, where people came down in vast numbers, and people on the whole were very good, but just one or two didn't seem to realize that people have got to move around. We are a working economy down here, and if you block the road up by putting cars both sides of it, nothing moves, and that can be dangerous. So what I would say to people, come, enjoy Devon, but please respect Devon as well.
Okay, well, thank you for that, John. I believe the next question is directly for you.
I'd like to ask the leader of Devon County Council, how much of a priority will the BAME community be for Devon County Council? What plans do they have, obviously, to assist the BAME community coming out of lockdown?
And certainly the campaign has raised awareness of the issue. And we as a local authority have done our best to get involved with this. We did have a presentation from students to our county council meeting. We've agreed that we would take decisions to encourage our schools to participate and to get involved in the Black Lives Matter aspect. And we also wrote to Devon members of Parliament pointing out the concerns of the younger people. So I do think it is something that was brought to a head and something that the county council has taken on board well.
Okay, well, thank you for that, John. The next question, I imagine, for your good self. Well, we've seen an increasing number of companies using home working over the past year, and as expected, many will continue to do that, at least going forward, and at least some partial element of home working. Do you feel Devon's internet has been good enough over the past year, and are there any plans to make it better?
I think we have actually done an excellent job within the county of Devon in getting people able to work from home. We are intent on spending a lot more on the internet. We were one of the biggest initial organisations for the Devon and Somerset broadband when it first started. We did get a lot of people, a lot of companies and a lot of individuals on broadband, but there's still a large gap in the county. We've just announced an £80 million programme with 3 different companies to improve and infill that section of Devon, particularly on the eastern side of Devon, running around to just short of the south, part of the South Hams. But we have done a fantastic job, in my view. We will not please everybody immediately, but Devon has got a very large area of land and a lot of isolated people. And the companies that have been working with us, by and large, have worked well. We have got a large number of people on. We are improving. Undoubtedly, I will agree with you. I do not see people coming back to work. We have a new norm coming. People will be working more from home than they possibly did before. I think that, but we've managed, we have linked up. We are having actually people now moving into the Southwest who are working out of other parts of the country because they find the internet here is good enough for them to be able to do it. So yes, we will need to improve. We're going to continue improving, but we have got something that is working at the present moment. You've got to remember, we had 100,000 children actually at home, and a whole host of those were working from home into schools on top of business.
Well, thank you very much for that. The next question was about cycling. Obviously, in the early days of the pandemic, there was a lot more people on push bikes. Firstly, what is being done to ensure that those people who did start cycling continue to? And we also have this very specific question.
For a long, long time now, I've been promised to look into a cycleway between Newton Abbot and Teignmouth, and that would be great to do that. It's one of the ones we really want to get done. I know there's problems with the tide, but I'm sure that can be overcome.
When we saw in the first lockdown the ability to exercise once a day, we did see an increase in the number of people, not just cycling, but also walking outside as well. Clearly, from a public health point of view, people being more active is not only good for themselves physically, but also emotionally, health and well-being as well. And also we saw an improvement in air quality, which again is a really positive for public health. Clearly, from my point of view, we want to encourage more people to continue to cycle and to walk and to be outside in the fresh air. So there are a number of programs we're putting into place to try and enable that, to support people to do that through our work around Active Devon, our work around the Local Nature Partnership, for example. So we are encouraging how we use nature, both cycling as well and walking, to keep people active.
Can I say that what Steve said is quite accurate? We were given a small amount of money, £1.9 million, to put in some temporary cycle routes within the county. We had a tremendous number of applications, and 1.9 million, unfortunately, doesn't buy you much, even at temporary level. But we did put something around Exeter, around Barnstaple, and I think we did a little bit somewhere in Newton Abbot, but I'm not quite sure on where. What we're doing now, in particular, with this new route that we're talking about, that people have been specific on, the Newton Abbot to Teignmouth Road cycle route, we have actually there been to consultation. We've had a 90% plus support for the ideas that we've got. And it's our intention over the next few weeks and months to put together a planning application, which will be submitted in the summer. That will fill the gap for this cycle route, which is very, very popular. So yes, we are moving on it. And we are in other parts of the county as well, moving on some of these cycleways. It has become very, very popular, but you cannot easily block off a road necessarily. What we have done is we've adjusted some of the roads in order to accommodate the cyclists safer.
Well, next question. Your short and medium term hopes for the economy in Devon, obviously quite a difficult question. But the most people wanted to know, do you feel the recovery will be mixed? And is there any support that County Council is able to offer over the next 12 months as we start to emerge from these latest restrictions? And we hope there won't be any more restrictions to follow in the future.
As I said earlier on in this interview, there's a tremendous part of our economy is in the tourism trade, the hospitality trade, and I'm hoping that will come back and come back quickly. The County Council is also looking to support our businesses in the county. Until the lockdown first came, or until the pandemic arrived, in the Exeter sub-region, we had very high employment and very low unemployment. A lot of our companies are now at furlough. We're hoping they're going to come back, but we're also hoping to look as if we can get back again on developing green energy, exploiting marine heritage, high value tourism, food farming and fishing. We're leading on Buy Devon, made in Devon, bought in Devon, and the high-tech digital industry. We've got the supercomputer down here, and we've got the latest, something that's attached to the science park. What I've said many times, we can, as a local authority, are responsible for creating the climate for work. We don't create jobs. We do have a certain amount of land that's available. In order to improve skills, and one of the opportunities we've had in the last few months is to buy the Flybe Centre. And that has now been leased out to Exeter College as a high-tech industry, heavy industry training ground. We also have put together a package within our economy department of £6 million. That's going to be spread over 2 years. But it will be there for us to encourage business to start up, for business to continue and develop. We have got land, we've got land that's already serviced. So if somebody comes to us and says they want to put up a business, we have the capacity, the land, to be able to say, right, where do you want it? And we'll back you to the best of our ability. So, yeah, are we ready to come back? Yes, we are. Do we have the ducks in a row? I think we do. We just want the climate to come back. And as soon as that comes back, hopefully by June, I think Devon economy will begin to start growing again.
The next question, I imagine, is for Steve. Lots of people have struggled with their mental health over the past year. People want to know what support is there for adults and also for children going forward.
We're all aware of the impact of lockdown and the pandemic on people's emotional health and well-being, and there's an awful lot of support out there for young people, children and families as well. And just some examples we include additional support for children who might be anxious about returning back to school, so there's counselling and therapy is available for those children and families. For the younger people, we've got Young Devon offering online one-to-one counselling and face-to-face support as well. Our partners in the NHS, Devon Partnership NHS Trust, offering counselling for adults through TalkWorks. And there's also support in the business sector through the Listening Ears service, offering emotional health and wellbeing support for people running small and medium businesses in Devon. So there's an awful lot of support and information available for people. So I would encourage anybody, young people, families, adults, if they are feeling anxious or want support or advice, then please go to the Devon Coronavirus website, devon.gov.uk, and you'll find a range of information and support for people in Devon.
I just wanted to add to Steve that the county has set aside in the children's department alone £1.9 million to support young people. Those that are nervous to go back. We've actually put money as well as good deeds. And with the Listening Ear, it is one that we're working with the business community. Devon is one of the few local authorities that still has kept some form of youth service support. And these people have come into their own working with us, particularly supporting young people in the pandemic, in the lockdown, as well as those going back to school now. We have not just the education side, but we have a voluntary side as well, which is supporting the young people. And I think that's very important to emphasize, that this local authority has done this kind of thing. And we've kept, even over the years that we've been kind of having to reduce budgets, we have kept a service for young people that's available for young people. And we have a youth parliament, part of which, again, we attach, they select themselves, they do their things, they report to the county council and tell us what young people want. These are things I think are very important for young people to have a direct link into the county council.
Final question from our listeners, probably one to Steve. The big when. When will the population, at least the adult population of Devon, be vaccinated by? What timescales are you working to at the moment?
As people know, the vaccination programme is one of a huge success. In Devon, we've been very fortunate to roll out, often ahead of the national targets. Over 500,000 doses have been delivered. Over 90% of those in the cohorts 1 to 5, so over 60s, have been over 65. Sorry, have been vaccinated, and the national target is for all those cohorts 1 to 9. So that's over 50s and those who are clinically vulnerable by mid-April. And even with the announcements about the supply chain, we will be hitting that target in mid-April. And the national target, which again the Secretary of State has reinforced that target will be hit for all adults, so all over 18s, by the end of July. And as I've said, the previous targets we've always hit slightly ahead of the national targets, and clearly if supply is available, it will be our best endeavours to make sure we go ahead of the actual national targets.
Okay, and just actually whilst you're on there, just thinking as we're coming up to the anniversary of the first lockdown, I might just ask you a question about that. I don't mean to put you too much on the spot here, but when we hit that first anniversary of the lockdown, what will be, do you think, going through your mind? How will you reflect from your public health position on the last year? Are you proud of what Devon's done? Are you sad that it took so long to quite get to where we are now? What will be your thinking, do you think?
Well, I think it's one of those things where if you would have told us a year ago where we'll be now, many of us probably wouldn't have believed it at all. Going into those 2 long lockdowns, for example, the programs we have in place now around testing, the vaccination program, it was but a dream 12 months ago. So I think for me, I'm proud of the work we've done in Devon. Not just in terms of the public health team, but many of our partners right throughout the system, whether that's our NHS, our colleagues across both districts and the voluntary sector, the universities, education. We've all worked incredibly hard to try and keep people as safe as possible in Devon. Clearly, we've had relatively low transmission, which is great, and there's lots of reasons for that. Some of that's geography. I think a lot of it is Devon's residents absolutely doing the right things when asked to do that. But we've also been able to respond swiftly to when we do have outbreaks. And if we reflect back, we had quite a large scale outbreak in the university in the autumn, which again, we managed to work successfully with our partners to, minimise any onward community transmission. And looking forward, we are still going to have, hopefully low levels of the virus, but we are expected to think about how do we live safely with COVID. And living safely with COVID means keeping that virus low, and then inevitably we will have some outbreaks. How do we respond swiftly to that? So it's been a difficult, challenging, long year. Lots of people, including the public, are very tired and fatigued and want an end to this. I'm here to say, the end will come as long as we continue to do those public health measures we've all been hearing about, and we all do our bit and we all play our part.
Can I say that I totally support what Steve has just said? If you ask me where has the last year gone, I frankly haven't got a clue. If you think or don't think, it's flown by. There's been so much going on, so much to learn, so much of working together. We created things like Team Devon. We had the districts working with us, the voluntary sector working with us. Everybody has done a fantastic job. The people of Devon have done a fantastic job by looking after themselves and looking after their neighbours. But certainly, Team Devon is something that we formed up early on in this, working the county, the districts, health, and the voluntary sector, and looking after 34,000 people initially were shielding. Lately, we've been able to look after 15,000 young people on school meals over the Christmas, and we're looking after them over the Easter. Things that nobody, I think, would have dreamt of 12 months ago have been achieved, and they've been achieved without fuss and without us actually having major problems, because we talk together. I will put on record my thanks to the people of Devon, also to the people working for Devon in all forms, local government, health, even down, to the people running the shops, the checkout people, the dustmen. We have kept Devon moving all the time with this pandemic, and that is a massive achievement. And we've done it without a fuss, and we've done it without totally spreading the virus in a way that could have been a major impact, like it did in other parts of the country. So my thanks to everybody. My thanks even to the media for putting out the right messages.
Well, thank you both very much for your time. A lot of the answers there I found very enlightening. There's a lot of issues and subjects there that, well, certainly before we started this debate, I didn't realise, and I didn't realise the levels of support the council is offering. As you both touched on, there is extensive information on the Devon County Council website about coronavirus and also about the support available locally. And we'll put a link to that in the article below. But thank you very much for watching. And thank you both very much for taking part.
Thank you for the invitation.